Well, right, good morning everyone. Thank you for having me and Becky on this morning. So my name's Philip. I'm a training careers advisor here at Leeds City College. And what I'm going to present this morning to you I hope will be of benefit in the sense of helping you all to secure work in the future. Can somebody just firstly just tell me a little bit about your course at the moment and where you're at? Someone just volunteered to tell me about. So you're doing health and social care?
Yeah.
What year are you in?
Level 1.
You're doing level 1?
Yeah.
Okay. So some of you will be looking to do level 2 next year?
Right, yeah.
Definitely.
Both, okay, so that's, yeah. Right, well, so obviously the skills that I'm going to be going through about interviews might only come in use maybe in 2 years, perhaps even 3 years, but these are skills that will set you on the path for, you could say, for life skills. So do take notes if you wish, but I will also make the slides available to anyone who would like me to send you a copy. Okay, so let's start by, I just want to go through the aims and objectives of this morning's session. So firstly, I really just want you to raise awareness of how to succeed within an interview situation. And then obviously we want to describe different ways that you can prepare for a job interview. I also want to identify the difference between positive and negative body language. There's various studies to show that 80% of your communication is your body language, and only 20% is what comes out your mouth, actually. So it's worth bearing in mind that body language is really key to being successful at a job interview. And then finally, I just want to give you some examples of questions which may arise in an interview situation. Because obviously you might wonder, what are you going to be asked at a job interview? Well, I can answer those questions for you this morning. So that's the aims. So you get a phone call and you've got an interview. So how do you feel about that? How would you feel? Good, excited. Nervous a bit, perhaps? Would you feel nervous?
Yeah, you will.
Yeah. It's only natural. You know, if you've not had an interview for a while, you tend to feel excited and a bit nervous because you want to prepare. So.
And I practice in the mirror also.
Yeah, good. A practice makes perfect. So you've received a letter to say that you have been invited to an interview for a job you really want. I'd like you all now just to identify 5 things you need to do in order to prepare yourself for the interview. So if you want to work in pairs or threes, just give you a couple of minutes and I want you to write down and then feed back to me what 5 things do you think you would need to prepare for an interview. Okay?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Slamming. Good, Charlotte.
Obviously, just to give an example, obviously you prepare your
Careful, don't trip over the thing.
where you look
It's
at your appearance.
Can you give me one? Chris, can you pass me one? Thank you.
So as I say, without giving too much away, one of the things you would definitely prepare as an example is you would dress smartly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Apologies if you put that, but just to give you an example. So what else do you think? You can give me at least 4 things you think you prepare.
A list of questions.
Yeah, definitely.
Are you supposed to just shout the out? Yeah. Are you supposed to just shout them out? Confidence?
Yeah, if you're working, so I'll give you all a few minutes to write a few down or just think about a few.
Louis.
You need to be able to
You have something. Tell them why. What else?
Okay, I think that's that. I'm going to call time on that. I'm going to so starting here. Can you feedback one thing that you would prepare for an interview?
Think about what you're going to wear.
Yeah. So what? Dressing smartly. Yeah.
Think about how you're going to
Okay, so planning the journey. Planning's great. That's good. Yeah. So we've just had planning. Sorry? Yeah. Okay. So planning the journey. Okay. Next group. Have you got anything to feedback on that?
Tell them why you want this job.
Sorry, just one at a time, please. So,
Tell them why you want the job.
okay. Yeah. So preparing questions.
Yeah.
Would you say? Yeah.
You've said.
Okay. Yeah. Good.
When you're planning a journey, do a trial run beforehand. Time yourself how long it's going to take to get there. And just think, do you know, like say if it's at 10 o'clock on a Monday morning,
Yeah.
do the trial run on a around that time as you can, like say the day before, and then you at least know how long it's going to take you to get there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very important.
Yeah.
The worst thing you can ever do is be late for an interview. So don't. Right. Anything to feedback? What would you say you prepare for an interview?
Making sure all your documents are ready and prepared.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certificates. Does anyone have a folder yet to keep for your certificates?
Yeah.
Yeah. References. Do you keep? Everyone should keep something like a progress file. I was given one at high school. 10 years later, I still have the same progress file. Because keep everything together and take it along to interview. Sometimes they want to take photocopies of your certificates, so make sure you've got that to hand. So yeah, no, that's everyone. What you've all said is correct, but I just want to obviously go through everything so you're all clear. So we've had planned the journey, but you also need to research the company. How many staff does the company have? How many offices does it have? Who's the chief executive? These are things you need to know. And if you're wondering where to get this information, Wikipedia, Google search it, it's all there. So, and reread your CV and application, make sure there's no spelling mistakes, make sure it's you've got effective, it comes across well and that it's easy enough to read. Prepare questions. Really, really pleased to mention that. Forgive me, who mentioned about preparing questions? This group here, was it? And yeah, and you mentioned it as well, because you should always have some questions. When at every interview they will ask you at the end, do you have any questions? You should always have questions. Think of a few. Great question. The great question I always ask, is there any reason why you wouldn't employ me based upon the way I've performed today? And that's a really good question to ask because it gets them to think yes or no. I mean, when I've asked that question, they've said, well, no, actually, you've performed really well today. So it gives you an idea of whether or not you've had a good interview by asking, is there any reason why you would not employ me?
Oh, and another word, and I was watching it on TV as well. When you go for a job interview and everything, don't use the a lot and everything.
Yeah, don't waffle.
That's the point.
Yeah, sorry, what's your name?
Anne.
Anne, yeah, and waffling hampers your own chances. If you just waffle or go as you say, it doesn't help.
It's not, I said it
Doesn't
on
help
TV
you.
recently,
Yeah.
that's what it was.
Yeah. And so we've had dress smartly, which are obviously self-evident. Yeah, and have a good night's sleep. If you got an interview at 9 o'clock, do not stay up till 4 a.m. or get to bed at least before midnight and make sure you get 8 hours sleep. You know, it's so important. You know, yes, you might have to miss, an episode, I don't know if you watch EastEnders or something like that, or you might have Family Guy. In my case, I'm a big Family Guy fan and it's normally on really late on BBC Three, but I would miss my Family Guy in order to get 8 hours sleep.
Right.
So just make sure you do that. So, and what I will mention as well at this stage, remember when it comes to interviews, guys, it's the employer is not looking for an excuse not to hire you. You need to give them an excuse to hire you. The glass is half full. They don't invite you for an interview because they're looking to say no. They want to say yes, but you need to give them that excuse. Okay, so speaking of which, the interview itself. So we've got here. Yes, right. I'm going to show you a video now, which I was just getting up earlier, and I will have some questions for this video, but let's watch it first. You might have seen this movie, Will Smith in the Pursuit of Happiness. Well, let's see how he performs. I want you all to think about the good and the bad and the not so good about his interview performance. Oh no, because Internet Explorer is not working. Ah dear.
No way.
Let's try that again. It's not liking full screen.
No, it's not. I don't know what's wrong with it.
Chris Gardner.
Right, we're going to have to probably keep that on smart. Why is it doing it? Right, I'm going to have to keep it on. I mean, that's. Can everyone. You won't have to speak it.
Chris Gardner.
Chris Gardner. How are you? Good morning. Chris Gardner. Chris Gardner. Good to see you. Chris Gardner, pleasure. I've been sitting out there for the last half hour trying to come up with a story that would explain my being here dressed like this. And I wanted to come up with a story that would demonstrate qualities that I'm sure you all admire here, like earnestness or diligence or team playing to something. And I couldn't think of anything. So the truth is, I was arrested for failure to pay parking tickets. Parking tickets? And I ran all the way here from the Polk station, the police station.
What were you doing before you were arrested?
I was painting my apartment.
Is it dry now?
I hope so.
Jay says you're pretty determined.
Oh, he's been waiting outside the front of the building with some 40-pound gizmo for over a month.
He said you're smart.
I like to think so.
And you want to learn this business.
Yes, sir, I want to learn this business.
Have you already started learning on your own?
Absolutely.
Jay,
Yes, sir.
how many times have you seen Chris?
No, I don't know. One too many, apparently.
Is he ever dressed like this?
No. No. Jacket and tie.
First in your class? In school? High school?
Yes, sir.
How many in the class?
12. It was a small town.
I'll say.
But I was also first in my radar class in the Navy, and that was a class of 20. Can I say something? I'm the type of person, if you ask me a question and I don't know the answer, I'm going to tell you that I don't know. But I bet you what? I know how to find the answer, and I will find the answer. Is that fair enough?
Chris, what would you say if a guy walked in for an interview without a shirt on? And I hired him. What would you say?
He must have had on some really nice pants.
I stopped
Chris.
here, but it's up to you if you want to carry
I don't know
on.
how you did it
And
just
because
as a
that was the
garbage
end of the
man, but you really
interview.
pulled it off in there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Twistle.
Hey, now you call me Jay. All right, we'll talk to you soon.
So I'll let you know, Jay.
Okay, so what do we think about that? Good? Bad?
Bad.
Funny, yeah?
Funny.
Interesting?
Not funny. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, did I like how he responded to that question? So, what would you say if you didn't turn up appropriately and you made him laugh? That was a very risky strategy, but he could have just talked himself out of the job there, say I wouldn't hire that person and leave. But yeah, he knew how to respond to that. So let's get back to the presentation. Okay, so Okay. So, is this the group exercise section?
Um,
A bit further.
It's a little. Which? Sorry.
The
Oh, it was a little bit further along.
Little
This,
bit
did you want
further,
to talk through the interview at all,
Yeah.
or did, yeah? And then it's a
Um,
little bit further along.
okay. So would you employ him if you were the manager?
Yeah.
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 You have to give
Yeah.
to the gap.
Hmm?
They were confident. No
Mhm.
matter what, it wasn't about what he was
Mm.
wearing, it was his personality and
Yeah.
how he portrayed
And,
himself.
and yeah, he was very confident.
Yes.
And he knew what he wanted.
Yes. He wanted to be there, even though he wasn't dressed.
Dressed,
You know,
yeah,
he-
and it's fun. He's also funny.
Yeah.
Cause
But-
he made
yeah.
the interview very. Cause they were like, oh, this. If you see him, you see that he's crazy in person.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, it just goes to show you should always want to be there. So don't apply for a job where if you really don't, if you know you're gonna hate it, don't, because you're just gonna give off the body signals that you're not really wanting to be there, but you're just going through the motions.
Yeah.
So always make sure you apply for a job you want. So again, I just want to say about first impressions, counting and body language. I really want to underpin this with you all this morning. I've also added turn off your mobile phone, so don't let that go off in the interview. It's a distraction. Yeah, although Will Smith managed to get away with it, do wear smart clothes.
Yeah.
And have clean, neat hair. Turn up on time. It's important you give off the signal that you work. Timekeeping is very important, and if give yourself, if your interview's at 9 o'clock, aim to be there at 8:30.
Yeah.
So things like that. Make eye contact and firm handshake. Don't just offer, when you go in and like see Will, he was. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't go to each interview panel member and just shake their hands. But when you go in, first thing I do is they say good morning to you. I say good morning, nice to meet you all, and I ask for the interview panel's names. I make a note of their names and I refer to them by their first name because it adds a bit more of a personal rapport, which is good in a professional capacity. So if Becky was interviewing me, I would get a note of her name and I would refer to her as Becky rather than not use her name, because it just adds the most. In every case, I would say interviewers appreciate it if you use their name. So just make a note of their name. So normally you'll have 3 people interview you. That's the average. Sometimes you'll have 2. Sometimes you might just have 1. But when in most circumstances, especially in the public sector, you'll have something called competency-based interview where there will be a panel of 3 people. So yeah, get their names. Oops, I'm jumping ahead again. Okay, yeah, speaker's impact. So how you look accounts for 55% of, this is a study by Dr. Malzahn, of into interviews, into what proportion of your interview is based on how your appearance. How you sound is 38%, and what you say is apparently just 7%. So that is just something for you all to think about when you're preparing. So.
But how you
Yeah.
sound and what you say, they're both connected together, really, aren't they?
Yeah, they can be.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I agree with this.
Yeah.
I'm just giving it as just something for you all to think about. This is a study which.
Because you won't go into a job interview swearing, would you?
No, well, you should no.
You get that
No.
bit back out, wouldn't you?
And you definitely wouldn't. So I've just been through that. Yeah, so we've hope that sit. Don't slouch. If I'm sat in an interview and I'm just sat like this, picking my nails. Do I want to be there? Do I expect? Well, my background's HR, and I've interviewed people who have come in, sat like I'm sat right now, and it's beggars belief. I just think they're wasting my time, to be honest, as a HR recruitment officer. But they're wasting their own time. Why would you come in and not? You need to be this way and just have your hands postured, relaxed, but not too relaxed. But you shouldn't be so relaxed like you're watching at home, watching telly, or you're speaking to a mate. You do need to have a straight posture and have a glass of water as well. You're doing a lot of talking in interviews, and whenever they offer you a glass of water, I would do accept it, because you might get thirsty and you'll need a drink. And so use positive body language. Again, I say it's key to be positive and to use positive hand gestures and signals whilst you're interviewing, and be respectful at all times. So positive body language, yeah. So it's really. I hope some of this stuff is stuff you consider quite basic stuff, but it's just it's worth you just I said I've put this in here because it's stuff that you need to get right. If you're going to have any chance of being offered a job, you need to get these basic steps correct. And yeah, show interest in what the interviewer is saying by nodding and making positive gestures. Some interviewers do go off on a tangent. They'll tell you about their own experiences, and you think, hold on a minute, aren't I the one being interviewed? Or they talk about the things, but make eye contact and just nod and be polite. If they want to talk about something, then just respect that. Try and make eye contact with all the interviewers, with you, answering the question as well. So that's extremely important. Body language to avoid: don't sit with your legs stretched out, feet crossed and arms dangling. So how I was just sat, don't do that. Don't cross your arms. This can be interpreted as defensive.
Yeah.
Don't give off that signal. Don't ever cross your arms. And don't not shake hands too limp or too firm. I say good firm handshake. You'd be surprised how if you don't make a pop handshake, it doesn't give off the right signal. You want to give off the right signal when you go in and you shake things. Like you saw Will Smith, he was giving them all a firm handshake at the beginning. Again, it's important you do that. Beware of moving your feet up and down in a nervous manner or fiddling with your hair. Just try and keep your hands in front of you and just put your hands in a basket.
That just says that's nerves. That's nervousness, isn't it?
Yeah, it's natural. And to say it's natural to feel nervous, but it's just as much as possible. Try and not be nervous during the interview because you just bottle. Yeah, when any of us are nervous, you bottle things up and you don't say things. You're thinking things, but it doesn't necessarily come out your mouth, does it? So yeah. Anyone heard of the STAR format? Could anyone tell me what this means? Okay, well, good news is I'm going to tell you what STAR format is, and this is what I want you all to think about. In interviews, forgive me, I'll ask by starting by asking, does anyone know what I mean by competency-based interview? Okay.
Competent, doesn't that mean that you feel that you've done it and that you feel competent doing it? And that you're confident doing it?
It can, yes, I would agree with that. But it also competency-based interviews is about giving specific examples. It's Anne, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so Anne, it's about giving, specific examples in your life that can relate to the question they're asking. I'll give you a perfect example. Every interview they will ask you about, can you give me an example of when you've worked part of a successful team? So think of a team situation and think of a specific example. Do not just say, oh yeah, I work part of, I go to class at Beeston and I'm always sat in a successful team with my class colleagues. If that's all you say, that's not gonna get you any further. Give a specific example. If you've got a part-time job or you're working away, give an example of where you've done something specifically. Like I would give an example. For example, when I worked at Metro, I worked in the call centre answering. If your bus didn't turn up, you'd ring me and tell me about it. And I would say a specific example of where I've worked as part of a successful team. I worked in a team with 10 individuals. We all played a key role in providing bus and train information to passengers in West Yorkshire. And I would give one example where, like, a young girl once called me and she was really upset. She lost a bus pass, and I had to speak to my team member in order to help issue her a new bus pass. I'm telling you this because that's like, I'm giving quite a bit of detail there, so always give detail, specific examples. So the situation, think of the situation, the task, what did you have to do, the action, and the result, what was the end result. So the STAR, every interview question, use the STAR format. It's for you to use. So the situation, think of a specific example in your past or here in the class. You can use an example of the classroom if you've done something here at the college that has been of benefit. The task, what you did, the action and the result. Does that make sense? And be
Yeah.
honest, is that
Yeah.
Yeah? Is everyone-
Does, yeah.
okay? So so that's the style format. So typical questions, which I've always touched on. Okay, small groups. Yeah, I would like you to decide how you would answer the questions given to you. So I'm going to give you out some another task, and then I want you to decide how you would answer them. So is it these slides?
Yeah.
So in groups of 3, or 4 if we've got an odd. So I can give you that. That's one group. And what's your name? Chris, yeah, if you 3 kids work together, so I'll give you a couple of minutes just to think through those questions.
Tell me about yourself. Where you live, focus on things and things that you
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just said, I sort of picked a question from each group, had a look round and said, what did you say for this one?
Okay.
And then I said, were there any that you thought were really difficult to answer? And anybody got a good answer for any of them? Just generally talk. I just talked through so that people could get answers to the ones that they didn't know. Or generally they just asked as well if they were like, oh, we're struggling on this one. See, I just picked 1 or 2 questions from each group just to get
just
feedback.
feedback, yeah.
And then
Cool.
anything extra they could feedback if they found it difficult or whatever.
Right. Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so yeah.
Very caring. We're very reliable. That's 3.
I think you see one person.
That's 9.
Are you dying? That's your son. More than the actual good job.
See, a job to me shouldn't be just a job, it should be something you've got a passion about and what you think about is a good job for you. Have you got your 3?
Oh, that's fine. No, that's completely no, it's fine.
Something you've got a passion about.
Oh, dude, you don't want to be in it, though. You say, oh no, that's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Bag up the shop, come on.
Just go for any job. I get a job. If you want to go for it, so you can find a job.
Okay, so I'd like to ask each group how they would answer one of the questions that you have on your list, the questions that I gave out. So I'll start at this end. Can you read me out the first question on your sheet,
Yeah.
please?
Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? Is that the first question?
Yeah, that's right. You're right. What you just read out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
That's
yeah.
the first one, yeah. What if you answered that
But you
one?
can answer either of them.
Okay, read out the second question then.
Yeah, that's fine. Either.
Read out the second question.
What are the 3 positive things about you and your friend, and what would your tutor say about you?
And what have you answered to that?
Like,
Very outgoing, very caring, and also reliable.
That's probably
Mm.
That's good. That's a good
brilliant.
answer. Yeah.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. No, I wouldn't add. I would have. That you score well in the
Yeah, I
interview
would
if
have
you,
said so.
if
Yeah.
you reply to that. So good. Next group. And what have you?
I'm thinking of what can you do for us that other candidates can't?
And how have you replied? What have you put?
You're willing to learn new things in the company and stuff on that. Because I was reading it all as well, you know what I mean?
So yeah. So so the question is, how would you do something that other candidates can't do? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a tricky one, isn't it? Like how because you've not started at the company yet, but you know how would you answer that? Yeah.
That's where the research comes in and that's where you find out about the company, isn't it? Really?
Yes, yeah, that would help you out. So if you found out, like, if you mentioned whoever the chief executive's name is, it shows that you've researched. But I'd also just say something like, you know, well, I'd give an example of my past experience to show that I've already, like, I've already done that job. Like, if I was, I suppose, what kind of jobs do you want to, once you qualified? What job? What is the dream job, Anne? What would
Mine want to be a nurse.
You want to be a nurse? Yeah, so you'd maybe give an example of that. By then, you'd probably be on placement. Would you say? Do you have placements? Or would you get? Yeah. So you give an example of placement to show that this is how you do a better job than anyone else. That yeah. So yeah, that's
And
it.
if you've got life experience in it as well, stuff like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, bring it all in, definitely. Next group, can you pick a question and tell me how you answered it, please?
Tell me about yourself, Mr. Han.
Yeah.
So when you go to an interview, just give them a brief statement about yourself, starting with your name first.
Yeah.
Nothing long, just something short about yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Age and maybe.
Like if you're married, just something short, not much.
Yeah. It's a great question to be asked at an interview, actually. Tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
Because
So is that
you can say that I am a very energetic, highly engaged person. In my spare time, I enjoy going to the gym and I go on 10-kilometre walks every weekend. So, you know, if you do, you know, because the best thing you can ever do is give an example of where, even in your spare time, you're doing, like, massive walks. You've done the Yorkshire Three Peaks, or you go to the gym, because that shows that you're, like, the way you address work, that you're so active and engaged that even in your spare time, you're still doing fitness, or you're, as I say, I think walking as well is a good example to use about you know, how you do things. You know, how it's about the right mindset, and as I said, I think saying if any of you do go to the gym, do mention that. But also, I wouldn't mention things like, if it's a bad answer to that question is say, oh well, I'm really enjoy watching television and I sit at home a lot, and you know, because you know you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. You really are. So if you ever ask that question about tell me about yourself, say something, you know, that you're obviously a very outgoing, positive person, all positive language, and you really enjoy doing, and you know, if you do, you know, you enjoy cycling or things like that, because that's telling the interview that you have the right mental mind frame to like work hard. So, yeah, no, that's great, brilliant. Next group, what can you give a question? What have you put here?
which one? Why should
Choose one, yeah.
hire you?
Why?
Why should we hire you?
And how did you respond to that?
Because I'm very good and
How are you very good?
reliable, and I would really like to work for your company.
How are you reliable?
Hard worker.
Why do you want to work for my company? I've only just met you. Why do you want to work for me? Think about. I mean, why should we hire you? That is a tricky. That's a tough question. Why should I hire you? I've only just met you, and you know I mean, you've not convinced me yet. Why should I hire you?
If they ask you that question, you just praise yourself because I'm good person.
You say good, yeah. But because, why are you a good person? Give me an example. Because, for example, when I worked at North Yorkshire Council,
You can say you are qualified
Yeah.
and this,
It-
tell what
you need to give examples, like
Because
say,
you like working with people, helping people.
Yeah.
You know, like
has anyone
like
given
like
has
us.
anyone issued first aid or anything like that in life? Has anyone dealt with a?
No.
Has anyone had to call the police? I suppose anything
I
for like because you know to
No.
support somebody or
Yeah,
like to
you
help.
know,
I got the nose
Oh.
out corner at thingy, but he'd already been through surgery with his legs, so.
So that was a stressful, like that was a difficult situation.
Everyone just like walked away and left him.
But you
So,
felt
yeah.
Yes, that's a good example then, isn't it? Yeah,
That's a
that is
really
a
good
good example.
example.
Yeah.
that would differentiate you to say something like well, you should hire me because I've dealt with some very difficult situations in my personal life. You could say that. For example, you know,
I was there for about a good hour, but because he was trying to explain to ambulance not to move him because his leg that had obviously had surgery and were in pain, but he wasn't listening. He wasn't listening to what they were saying. So I was like sat there and I was like, and he was called Les. Funny enough, I did know who he was, and I was like, Les, you understand that you've got to leg up right now. Obviously, you need to let them do what they've got to do to get you to hospital. But 2 weeks after he died. I don't know if it was trauma from crash or what it was, but he ended up dying.
Oh, that's very sad.
Very sad, yeah.
Right, but you know, it's still it's a life. You know, you were part of that situation in trying to help him,
I
weren't
had
you?
to be a witness as well, because obviously with him dying, it would be classed as manslaughter.
You do need to use
So
common
I had to be a
sense in the
witness
sense.
there as well.
You do need to use your own judgment. I don't, you know, I'm not saying you should ever bring something so personal, you know, into interview situations. If it's too personal, don't mention it. But just going back to the question, why should we hire you? The best examples you can give are always ones where you've been under pressure or you've dealt with. In my case, when I worked at a care home in Selby, I was the office receptionist, but one of the care users went missing. So I was the one manning the phone, calling the police, speaking to the ambulance, dealing with my manager who was stressed out. He was panicking. This person's probably died, Phil. Am I going to jail? Kind of thing is what he was thinking. So you have to. So I would use that example in that sense. I've dealt with such a difficult situation. So always think of a difficult situation is what I'm saying to round up in answer to why I should hire you. Something you feel you've done that nobody else has done. Is that alright? Does that help?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, no, that's I know you've all got other questions on your sheet, but we unfortunately time is against us, so we'll have to move on. But do make a note of the other questions and think about, you know, do take them home with you. So yeah, I want to just go over questions you might want to ask. So when it comes to that moment in the interview where they've asked you all their questions, they probably asked you about between 8 to 10 questions they normally ask you, and it's all. So this is like 45 minutes into the interview, coming to the end. You know, you're ready to leave. But you still don't ever leave an interview without at least asking 3 of these questions. One is, what would I be doing? Ask more about the job. So say like, what would I be doing as a nurse at St James's Hospital? You know, if that's where you interviewed, show that you're interested. Try and imagine yourself doing the job. Who would I be working with? You need to know who you're going to report to. What's the management structure like? What would I need? Boots, overalls, tools? Obviously, you wouldn't ask that question in every situation, but
it depends the job, though, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah, if it's a uniform or whatever.
Yeah. How would I be trained? Always show that you're keen to take training, and I hope everyone in this room is, because you're all here training. You're doing health and social care level 1. So always show that you want. That if there's training, I mean, would anyone raise your hand if you would not enjoy having training opportunities at work? And be honest, if you don't like the idea of ever having to train. No. Good. It's free. It's free training. Training's fantastic. Day courses are great. Gets you out of the office. So would I get some qualifications? Again, you all need to think about, yes, I'm going to be. I'm going to use the example of St James's Hospital again, but yes, I want to be a nurse at St James's Hospital, but maybe in 5 or 10 years' time I want to move elsewhere. So I want to know what qualifications I will get whilst I'm at St James's, and which will enable me to get a more senior role if you want to become a nurse team leader or something. You want to know how are they going to upskill you. It's all about upskilling. And is there a chance to progress? or you're just going to be stuck in the same job for 20 years. Gone are the days
That's what
where...
you don't want these days, though, no? You don't want to have a dead-end job by where you're doing the same
No,
thing.
but you could get promoted, that's all what training's about.
Yeah,
isn't
yeah,
it?
that's what it's all about these days.
Yeah. But gone are the days where there is such a thing as a job for life. You will, on average, you will move now, I think it's latest study I've read, you will move 6 times, at least, between jobs throughout your course. Say, and the retirement age will be, by the time we all retire, will be 70, if not 75. So it's, be prepared to move jobs, and you might be very lucky, and you might find one place like you'll end up working for the NHS all your life. It can still happen, I'm not saying it can, but on average you do tend to move around at least 6 times between 6 different jobs now. So, and yeah, there's a chance to progress, as say,
Can I just ask you one question?
Sure, yes.
Would this question be different if you're going for a university interview? If you're
Depend, like, is it a teacher at university, or just...
to just get into university?
Yeah, I say you won't ask questions about tools or equipment, because you're going to probably work in an office. But no, those kind of questions you would still ask at a university interview. Speaking of which, if anyone's interested in progressing to university, I studied undergraduate at Huddersfield University, and correct me if I'm wrong, Shannon, but I think they do nursing. I'm not wasn't in school. They do some, I don't know if you're sorry putting you on the spot here, but if anyone's interested in finding out more about life on campus at Huddersfield, I'll be very happy to
My
answer
friend,
those questions.
one of my classmates goes to Huddersfield, she's doing nursing.
Yeah, so that's cool,
She
because
does
I knew
do
they did.
nursing. Yeah.
Did she enjoy it?
Yeah, she wants to
Is
be a
it nice
Macmillan
doing it?
nurse. Where she lives is Huddersfield University, but where she trains in is in Halifax, at an hospital in Halifax, but she's been to a doctor's.
Okay.
And then she moved into hospital.
Right.
But yeah, she absolutely loves it.
Good. Yeah, no, it's a good, I think it's a fantastic uni, but I am biased because I went there, so... okay,
How long did you go to uni for?
4 years. I did
She's got to do 7.
gap year. I'm a big believer in gap year, a sandwich year, should I say, where in a sense if you do a 4-year course, you get a year placement, so you work. I do recommend them because it's upskilling you. Again, if you just do a 3-year academic course, you're not getting that practical experience.
Yeah, because I want to go to uni. I'd like to go to uni after getting up to level 3 in this, yeah. But it's how you go about getting into uni and stuff like that. My son did it all, but I sort of took bits and bats of it, him doing it, you know what I mean? But there was more that I would have found out about it for myself.
Cool. Well, what I'd say is obviously speak to me, Anne, after the class, but also there is the Careers Advice Service here at Leeds City College. There is so many opportunities to speak to careers advisors, but I'll come to that at the end about obviously next steps. I just want to say, so make sure that you end the interview in a polite and positive way. Thank the interviewers and say thank you for your time, and always ask them when do you expect to make a decision. Because if you leave the interview and you've got no idea when they're going to call you, you could be waiting weeks and thinking they might offer you the job when they've actually they might have just forgotten to contact you. So always ask when are you going to make your decision. Remember to smile, ask when you could expect to hear, as I say, shake hands with the interview, so have a final handshake with the interviewers and thank them. So, and that's how you conclude and leave the interview. And when you find out the outcome of the interview, if you're successful, fantastic, congratulations, go and party, make sure that go on a Friday, Saturday night, go out, drink, enjoy, because you deserve to. If you get a job offer, you should be ecstatic. Put it on your Facebook status. Go absolutely wild. Unless they say you can't use social media, then obviously don't do that. Now, if you're unsuccessful, practice makes perfect. The likelihood is, and I speak from my own experience here, is that you might not necessarily be offered the job on the first interview, or the second, or the third. It takes time. You warm up in a way. You have to rev up. It's like a car revving up engine. Sometimes some people are great. They naturally sparkle. They're the Brad Pitts of this world, and they go into interviews and they get the job. But on average, most people have to interview at least 4 or 5 times before they might be offered a job. So don't be disheartened. Don't be too upset or depressed, because you're just defeating yourself. So what you should do in this circumstance is ask the employer for feedback. Say you still need to, even though you probably don't want to thank them at this stage because they've just said no, you're not going to get the job. Still be positive and say, well, can I have some feedback? And they will. All employers, if you've had an interview, offer feedback. They don't legally have to, but they all do. If you ask for feedback, so get the reason, because it might be just a small thing that you missed out that didn't get your job. And if you don't ask, you're going to make that same mistake and you're not going to get a job. So please do always ask for feedback. Even, and I've been in that situation where when I've not been offered a job and you felt like you've done everything you can and you just don't want to speak to them again because you really, you're really angry, peeved off that they've not given you it. But do still ask for feedback. It is worth your time. Learn from the experience. What would you do differently next time? As I say, it's a constant learning experience with interviews. Make notes. Think about, yes, I've not been offered a job, but I'm not going to let this deter me. I'm going to keep going. Everything in life, if you want something so badly, you will get it. You will get it. You will. It's just a matter, it's not if, it's when. So, right, and I think that's obviously, is that the...
That's the last slide.
That's the last slide, right, cool. So, right.
So it's up to you if you want to do that other thing.
Yeah, so we, yes, which I would, because I think it's a good one to end us with. It's just...
Yeah, that, and then the skills grid as well.
And the skills
got
grid,
that, yeah.
Okay, is it one each for this?
Yeah.
Hopefully I have enough, but if you can take one and pass one round, I've got some quiz now.
Oh, shake it.
Quiz questions here. Please take one, pass one round. You might have to share one of these skills grids. Apologise, my pink printer didn't. So you just take one between two for this skills grid, so you can all, everyone can at least see. One.
You need a plastic.
Do you want me to go and photocopy? Do any of them need... Do you have enough of the sheets? I could go and copy a couple if you don't.
Yeah.
I don't want you to not have enough.
I guess we'll need one more. Is it got one for each, yeah?
Ideally, yeah. Shall I just... I'm just going to...
Yeah,
I'll just copy 50 more.
Okay. Okay, yeah, so... Yes, thanks, Becky. Okay, so this is just a quiz to ramp up the information. So which three skills would be important for a role requiring good customer service? And if you've got a... look, everyone should be able to see a skills grid, so look at the skills grid to answer the questions. So I'll give you all 5 minutes to do that.
For the interview itself?
Sorry?
No, I'm not.
Yeah. Is everyone okay with that? So,
okay.
So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Happy with that? Yeah.
Now we have to use this one to answer the question.
Yes, so this is the help you. So,
Right.
yeah.
What am I going to do now? Can you even buy me something?
No. The iPad?
We've got three
Have you both got one?
No, we get one.
Oh, I've got that.
I'm sure there is.
We have. Here's 2 I made earlier. So, right, there you go. So hopefully, Becky got these skills. Yes.
Some more of these.
Cool. Right, I've got. We're okay on them.
We're
So it's just the,
okay.
yeah,
Fine.
just those, yeah.
Oh, hi.
Mhm.
Sorry, I did baffle, but I don't think I've got any credit. Oh, no, it's fine. It's at 9, 10. We need quite a few of them, actually. Yeah. It's the majority. Nursing, midwives, social workers, care workers. It's quite a lot. In fact, there's some disrespectful. Yeah, which obviously we need to go and get to know, so we need to. But I mean, we've had students that have started on the best sector.
Very good. It's my first time here at Easton. I've not been. I only live in Morley.
I'm based at
Oh, did you? Oh, right, yes.
And I went to East.
Did you? Oh, right, okay, right.
He did history there.
Right. Yeah.
I did that.
Yeah, I'm unashamedly biased, but I
Yeah,
think
it is nice.
it's a really nice.
It's a nice campus. It's a nice school, especially nice.
Lovely. Yes, that's where I'm starting to keep resources and now I'm doing careers guidance. So, yeah. They're always building some new structure. It's constantly being developed. What did you do?
I did, well I did my I started off doing a foundation for it after doing that.
Yeah. Oh, right, okay, fantastic.
Can I cross them off on you?
Yeah, you can do.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's from college, but it was
Oh, was it college?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
But now I think the teaching is linked to TESOL, because I think
Okay. Yeah.
it's something like that.
It's something linked to Leeds, but it's probably Leeds is expensive.
But Bristol is quite relevant to universities.
It is now, yeah. It's
Because I know when I've gone through interviews, it's like, oh, you've got a degree, it's from the same,
yeah.
Can you use these again?
Yeah.
That's what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
if you want to use them more than once, you
Often
can, because some will be relevant to
universities,
different
yeah.
ones, so that's fine, yeah.
But I think
Yeah, you can do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, it's done well for itself. That's why I've stuck with it, to be honest. I almost went to Leeds, but I decided it's a nice camp. Oh yeah, yeah. If you're lucky, you get to meet him on graduation day.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Did you? Oh, I'm jealous. I had a video message from him.
Oh, yeah, we did, yeah. First couple of times I missed out, the third time I
Mhm.
did
Right.
He actually took, like, it seemed ages, but like, 2 tickets to come up to it individually. And I was just like,
Oh,
well
wow.
done. He actually,
Yeah. My name's Meg Patrick Stewart, so he's
Oh,
the chancellor
okay,
of this
right.
field, so
Okay.
handshaking. Yeah, a few words.
I'm really jealous. I'm a big Sargent fan, so
Because it's always like, oh, tricks, but you don't know until
yeah.
you're actually there. So.
No, you don't. No. That's true. So, okay, so I'll just give you 2 more minutes and then ask for some feedback on the quiz. Hopefully you've all picked up a couple of points from today. Find out.
Yeah. Yes.
A lot of those, yeah, skills that you use.
Yeah.
Okay, that's time's up. Right, can I just get some feedback now? So question 1 was, which 3 skills would be important for a role requiring good customer service? Can I have 1 or 2 responses to that? So this side,
I haven't finished. This time listening.
Listening?
Communication.
Communication, yeah. 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 Anything else? Yeah. So
I put ICT.
Looking smart.
I put ICT as well.
ICT.
Yeah.
You can, yes.
Customer service.
Looking
Yeah,
smart.
What?
Yeah, because you might be on like a reception and have to search for something quickly.
Working
So,
under pressure, yeah.
so yeah, that would
Yeah,
be
no,
useful.
definitely.
Well organised.
Yes. Yeah.
Confidence.
Customer service is all about you need to timekeeping.
Organisation.
Timekeeping is.
Managing your time.
Okay. Which 3 skills will help you work as part of a team or a group?
Teamwork.
Communication.
teamwork,
Yeah.
Team skills.
creativity,
Listening. Yeah.
and communication.
So one at a time. Well.
One organisation.
Yes. Organised. Yeah.
Team leadership.
Motivation as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. It all comes in.
Leader.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. And which of these skills will help you when working with people? So working with one another. What skills do you think you need?
Reliable
Yes.
on time.
Yeah. Look, we're all human. Nobody likes to work with somebody who is grumpy or, you know, not somebody places to work around. So friendly. Somebody said friendly?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Anything else?
Looking smart.
Focus.
Yeah. Confidence. Yeah.
Can you also say
Listening.
problem
Listening is
solve?
very important as well with working with people. You do need to listen to one another. Yeah.
Communication, innit? That's.
Mhm.
What about managing your time as well when you're working with other people as well?
Yeah, definitely. Managing your time effectively. So have you noticed something about this exercise? The skills you're putting in number of questions 1, 2 and 3, there's quite a lot of transferable ones.
Yeah.
Like communication comes into it all.
Oh,
Yeah.
Listening. So what I'm trying to say here is that the skills, whether you're working by yourself or you're working in a team, you need to have the same skills in some respects. Yes, there are different skills, but you also need to have skills that you pick up within a team and in lone working. Because there are times, I imagine, certainly health and social care workers, if you become a social worker, there might be times when you're working by yourself, but you're also expected to work as part of a team. So make sure that you've got the skills that you need to perform successfully. Okay, and then finally, pick one of the skills. Give an example of a time that you used this skill. Does anyone have an example?
Yeah.
Okay, what's your name?
Michael.
Michael, can you just give an example, please?
Yeah, when I worked at McDonald's at Top Wicket, the store was very busy. There was only 4 staff in the entire shop. Well, there was actually more on just like dining tables and everything like that.
Yeah.
But it was completely packed. You had to clean the toilets every 5 minutes, especially men's. But there was only 4 people on the shop floor.
Yeah.
There was 3 people on the till, but we were trying to keep that lifetime kind of focus on it. But yeah, it really worked out. But it was all stressed.
So what skill would you say if you were to pick one skill?
Team skills.
Team skill.
Yeah.
So team working.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds like resilience, patience. You need
Yeah,
as well.
it would be. Yeah,
Patience.
you'd have to have enough to make
I
it
find that in life, you'll find
you're right.
in a lot of jobs you are, and certainly probably nursing, I'll be honest, and social work, you might be dealing with client or patients that aren't very nice people. You know, there is going to be some people who are going to be difficult. You'll need patience.
Yes. You do.
You will need to be patient,
Yeah.
and you will need to. You might bite your tongue on occasion, and I'll be honest about that. Everyone does. I'm a HR professional, and sometimes I want to say stuff to certain colleagues, but you know what? I just end up biting my tongue and I say nothing, because if it's not, if you've got nothing positive to say, don't say it. Don't say it. You know, unless obviously if somebody is causing you any significant issues, speak to your manager. I'm not saying, you know, I'm just talking about, you know, like in general conversations. Sometimes you will be. Nobody gets on with everyone in the workplace. So people that you find, or you've got, as I say, you might have different clients. Just be patient. So patience is a very important skill, and resilience. You need to be. Do you understand what I mean by the resilience? Is that like you need to be very strong, you know, inwardly.
But you
as
have
well
to
as
remember that
outwardly.
you're not there for other people. You're there for your job and your future. So.
No, but you're there for other people because a carer is someone that looks after people.
Yeah, but
So you have to be nice, no matter how much you want to bite that person's head off.
But
You can't bite that person's head off.
You're there to do a job, right? Yeah, you're paid to do a job.
But you should only do a job if you're passionate about the job.
Yeah.
Well, I agree. Yeah, and obviously, I hope everyone sat in this room is passionate about health and social care, because you've chosen to be here. No one, unless you know, no one is forced to not be here if you don't want to be here. Or you know, so make sure, as I say, going back to what I said at the beginning, make sure you're passionate about what you want to do for a career. Okay, no, that's great. Well, that concludes the presentation and the group exercise. I just want to ask, does anyone have any questions, anything that they're unsure about what I've covered this morning about interview skills? Is everyone Oh, well, as I say,
What are the best websites for us to like use? You know what I mean? If we're like ever doing it again.
Brilliant, fantastic question, Anne, and glad you mentioned that because I would like to give you all some website information. So let's look at the next step. So we've gone over a lot of information, I'd say, this morning, and thank you all for participating in the group exercises. So what I'd like to say is for websites, you need to look at a website called Prospects. Now, Prospects will show you, Prospects is a great website because it gives you interviews with people who are currently nurses or social care workers, and they explain about how they got there and their motivation. So go to Prospects, just type in Google, and you'll come up with the Prospects website. Also, I spent a year working, has anyone heard of Reed?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a huge social care department based in Leeds. I wasn't working in that department, I was on the HR desk, but I worked next door to recruitment consultants who were hiring social workers. So I want you all to register and put your CV on Reed. Reed.co.uk. It is the biggest jobs website.
Is that double E or A?
Double E. Now, I'm not saying you should apply for job. You know, obviously you're still doing your qualifications, and you make sure you focus on getting your qualifications. But it's worth just practicing. Putting your CV on and just getting into the habit of, because eventually when you are qualified, certainly once you've got your level 2, you will be then able to obviously consider jobs. I think obviously you need to get, ultimately you maybe shouldn't aim to get a level 3, but but you can do some jobs with the level 2, is that right?
Yeah. You can be a care assistant.
You can only manage drugs on level 3.
There's certain restrictions, isn't there?
It's on a level, you've got to pass your level 3 to do. Is it?
Job.
You can only pass your level 3 when you're participating if you want to. So like if someone wanted a flu jab or something like that, you can train towards that, but you've got to pass your level 3 first. You can't do that on a level 2, can you?
Does anyone have a part-time job as well as studying at the moment?
No.
There's a couple of you.
I do.
Okay, what do you do?
I work in the kitchen.
Okay, so as well as, yeah. Okay, so it's, does everyone have a CV? Yeah. Okay. Now, what I'd like to, so I've given you 2 tasks to do so far. We'll look at Prospects and put a CV and register with Reed, because it'll set you up for the long term, even if you don't use it right away. Third thing I want you all to do is at some point in the next 6 months, I want you all to book an appointment with a careers advisor here at the college to talk about you. So obviously today's a group setting, so I've not been able to give you all individual careers guidance. You have a fantastic careers guidance service here at Leeds City College. There's like 25 careers staff that work within the careers service. Use them, they are here for you. So I want you all to have a half an hour. Once you book an appointment, you have up to 40 minutes to talk about. They'll go over your CV, they'll give you help with your CV, covering letters, they'll give you help with, they'll advise you or guidance. They won't tell you what to do. My job today is not to tell you all how to do what to do in life, far from it. My job is to signpost things, to give you options. That's what careers advisors do. So please, I challenge you all, within 6 months, just book an appointment to see a careers advisor.
What if you, do you know, like when we were discussing unis and stuff before and everything, what if you like, because my aim, hopefully, is to actually do well and to get into uni, but what if you do want to go to a different uni in a different city?
Then they'll also
fine. You
just
have to apply for
them. You just apply.
You'll apply for UCAS at that point. There's the UCAS application process, which is just finished for this year. But once you're ready to apply for uni, another thing, part of the careers guidance service here at Leeds City College is they will proofread your, because you have to do something called personal statement, and you apply for 5 universities. Everyone applies for 5.
Why 5 though?
It's just the standard, like you can apply for up to 5. You don't have to, but normally you do, just because it gives you options, and so you can put. Then you have a first and second choice, and then you have 3 female. Is that because it was my time anyway?
Yeah, then if you can pick different ones with different grades, and depending on what you get, then depends where you go.
Do you know when you get student accommodation in uni? What it is my mate, she goes to uni, she absolutely loves everything. She's a nurse and everything, but she's had to come home this weekend because they have like a refreshers week, don't they? But
Yeah.
now this is something else, and then we're all drinking and partying and all, there's a big DJ and stuff like that. But she's at work at 5 o'clock in the morning, so obviously she's had to come home now to go to travel to Halifax, but she don't want to be there. But because she's put, is it a bond or something like that down? It's like,
Yeah, she's paid for it
she's
already.
paid for a thingy already.
Right. Yeah.
How can she go about getting moved? Because she doesn't know how to do it. And she's saying that because she's on a contract.
You could ask through the uni, they could
at
help.
university.
They'll have a housing service.
Yeah.
They'll have welfare
service.
officers. And that's another thing to mention. Obviously, it's important you're all aware that if you do, again, I speak from my own experience, I don't mind sharing this with you all, but I ran into financial difficulties a few years ago.
You can do that.
You do. I mean, courses cost a lot of money, and it's now £9,000 a year tuition fees for university. You can get a loan, but it's, on average you come out of debt now about 30 grand with university. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not wanting to put anyone off from going to university, far from it. I think university is a fantastic experience, and it's not just about the qualification, it's the life experience, the social, it's fantastic.
If you want to do nursing though as well, don't the government pay for you to do nursing?
There is.
Yeah, some will pay.
Support for
Yeah.
Which I've only just found out in the past 3 months.
Yeah, because there's shortages and stuff, isn't there? So wherever
Yeah.
they need them, then they often will contribute. Yeah.
Well, if any of you are concerned about finance, what I'll just say is that as well as careers advisors, Leeds City College employs welfare officers to discuss finance with you. So if you have any issues, please do see a welfare officer. Just again, in case you weren't aware of that, and I say Becky's an employability advisor. So there is the university, the college rather has a really good service to support students.
You all know Kwame, don't you?
Yeah, so Kwame, he's based here in Morley, isn't he?
Yeah.
So Kwame, for example, he's he's in a position to help you all with things like CV writing and apply. If you've applying for a job, ask Kwame to go over the job application if you just want him to have a quick look over it. So yeah, hope that's useful. So that's it. So I'm just thinking if there's any more websites really, but there is not at this stage. So I said just look at. I think Prospects will be very useful for your health and social care to give you examples of people doing the jobs at the moment. And I said Read will help you if you're wanting to try and maybe get a part-time job or something whilst you're not studying. And finally, as I say, book an appointment for careers advisor. Is any further questions?
I think obviously everybody knows about going to university, but if you haven't got the time and you've got kids, you definitely can go through Open University, which is the same thing you just do it at home.
Yeah.
So that's a good opportunity. So if you can't get to university and you've got kids, apply for Open University.
Yeah, no, Matt, that's a very important point to make. Also important to look at apprenticeships and work placements. Well, I say become an apprentice, perhaps. You don't. I say university isn't for everyone. And
I don't want to go to university.
Fair
I'd
enough.
rather
It's a lot of money.
go get a job.
That's it. I mean, when my brother went to university, it was £1
Depends what you want to do,
so,
doesn't it?
Yeah.
there's
I just want to work
options.
in a care home,
Sometimes you have to
so
get
I'd
uni, don't you?
get qualification I'd get would be
Yeah.
enough for
Exactly.
where I want to get anyway. So, but I wouldn't want to go to uni. I know there's an open university, but I only spend 2 days a week with my son anyway, so I don't really want to be at home working as well as
No,
being
fair
up
enough.
as well.
No, if you don't want
Exactly,
to.
so it's not fair. Very, very last thing I'm going to mention is role-playing exercises. Kwame will be able to do an interview role-play with you, so he will actually interview you and you will answer questions. So that's great experience. Do book a role-play session with Kwame as well. But yeah, on that note, thank you all. And I say if anyone wants to message me anything particular, I can jot down my email address. Just let me know. I'll pass over to you. Thanks very much.